All right, Stefan, the setup on this, the ease of use is top notch. One of the things we want to make sure when we design a tool, how easy is the setup, right? If it's easy and not cumbersome, guys are going to use it. That's one of the huge benefits. Another great benefit of this K-Power is the fact that your pushing points are low to the panel. Anytime you get the pushing point above it, you get more of a dive, okay? Now, if I go to max this out, eventually it will give. Any tool you use, it's going to give somewhere. So, yes, it has porta power, what I like to say, but if you're putting the coals to it, just know there's a point where it has to give. So use finesse, okay? This is going to be very strong, so you can go a little bit more than finesse. So big rough out. Our other lateral beams kind of move up that continuum, medium size to small damage, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run through the process real quick. Set up the tabs, and we'll set them up down here, okay? There's also other shoes that you can install onto this if I wanted to do a body line and push, you know, parallel with the panel. They're gonna be these shoes here. Just like you see on our 3/8 and 1/2 inch lateral tension tool, same concept. You can go this way, or you can install this shoe, go that way, okay? So let's go ahead and get this set up. Once again, always following the process. There's nothing worse than gluing tabs down and they just pop off and you gotta do it again. So follow the process the first time to ensure that bond. I'm gonna clean right here, and we'll just go right here. Nothing's keeping you from going here, here, and up here at the same time. So that's what's great about multiple lateral tension tools. I could put the bar up here, I could put the LTT beams right here, and then put the K-Power down here. So nothing's keeping you from doing that, right? Clean the panel, both sides. Choose your tab. Now I got the long ones here, so I gotta keep in mind, I gotta make sure I get contact point, right? I could do that, right? It'll push up here. That little bit of a gap could pose a problem in shearing, but we're gonna go ahead and do it. Let's try it, right? So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go here, okay? If you're on any kind of panel that has a radius to it, keep in mind it's only gonna be about this much of the tab that's really getting glued down, okay? So go down into a smaller size, all right? The rigid tabs are not very flexible, okay? So you can see if you look, big gap, big gap. So make sure you get a tab that has that good contact point to the panel, okay? Same thing, clean the panel, clean the tab. Do it every time. All right, it becomes like clockwork. You don't even think about it no more.
Heat the tab too?
Heat the tabs, yes. You gotta think that glue's, it's smoking hot. And I like to do this analogy. If I got an ice cube and I throw it in boiling water, what happens? Shocks it. Same exact thing with that hot glue. Touch of the cold tab, cold panel, it's gonna crystallize that glue. It's not gonna solidify the way you want it to, okay? So we're gonna flash it. Let that heater kick on, there we go. Same here, we're gonna go right here. 120 is like the perfect temp to warm it up to, gets rid of all that humidity and moisture. A lot of guys use a torch, so you can see that humidity like dissipate.
Is that good after that?
It's good. Let it dissipate and just get a little warm. Don't burn.
Up to like, so I guess the rule of thumb is 120 to down 80.
120 with the heat gun, humidity can't survive at that. But you also cannot see that humidity dissipate with the heat gun, so that's why we go to 120. Torch, it's gonna go right before your eyes. Yep. We're gonna warm it up. Same thing on this side. Boom, boom, flash tab. Now when I'm glue pulling and I'm using this type of gun, I'll always run 2 of them, all right? If you wanna hold on to that, you can see the weight of it. Not too bad. I mean, it's built.
I don't want it to be not heavy.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be strong at the same time. So we're going to go right here, and I'm just going to coat the tab really good.
What about like a half a stick per the smaller one?
Yeah, you just want to make sure that you get enough glue that it creates a little bond line around the tab. Now you can always come back in if you need to add a little bit. Collision glue. Yep, collision glue, collision flex. All right, we'll go right here. All right. Make sure it's straight, okay? Always make sure it's straight. If I put it at an angle, that shoe's not gonna fit up very good. Now, there's always another way you can do this as well. If you wanna install it onto that beam like this, because it locks in real good, I can glue it and stick it like that.
Just gotta hold it.
You just gotta hold it. I typically like to do this, but as long as I'm accurate with the other tab and I'm not off, that's an easy way to set it up as well. Add some glue. Now, the deal is, sometimes it's hard because this glue gun can't keep up with that amount of glue. Run 2 of them. That's the way it can cycle. And you'll be ready to go. Coat it up really good. All right, I want to make sure that I'm level with that tab. I'm going to come all the way down here. Whoop, a little high. Pretty good there. Push your ends down real good because it's a rigid tab.
What's the cure time?
It's really not about the time, it's about the temp, okay? Now on the bags of glue, they'll say 3 to 5 minutes, but that's completely irrelevant because you gotta think, you know, the guy that's living in Miami and the guy living in Maine, that 3 to 5 minutes is completely different for both those guys. So when this temp cools back down into that 75, 85, that's when you pull. That's when the glue's at its most flexible stage, right? It still has a little bit of a stickiness to it, right? So that's that adhesion. If it ever gets cold and drops down to say 60, it gets rigid. That's where it kind of shears off, right? Heat it back up, check it, it's ready to go, okay? So, kind of like I did, you know, not a very good bond line. So I'm gonna come through and just give it a little bit of glue. And it'll smooth right into those cracks. Aim it in there, pull the trigger, and it'll flow right in. Just like that. I'm gonna come over here, add a little bit. If this tab was the like ice material, the clear, you can see that glue really flow right underneath it. You like the ice? Yeah. Ice is good. Now keep in mind, if there's anything complex and deep, ice is a very strong pulling tab, but when that metal contorts and starts moving, ice being a little bit more rigid is more prone to shear off on you. As opposed to the blue material, anything complex and large, the flexibility of it allows it to walk a little bit more as that metal is contorting and walking out, okay? Now this is where you can use a power tool, right? You can put a knob on there and do it by hand, more finesse. If I'm coming in here just to rough it out, power tool, okay? Now, I know we're pretty much ingrained and wired because of the videos we see online, you know, the big pop. It's satisfying, and I get that. But keep in mind, that's not always the best case scenario to put the coals to it just to see that pop. You run a situation where you start stretching, okay? So just keep that in mind. Although it is fun, it's fun to see it. All right, so what I like about this is the way it can set up, okay? I'm gonna loosen this up just a hair. I'm gonna tighten this one back in just a little bit more. And what I like to do is I'll put it right on the tab, flip it, set it in. That easy, right? Same thing on this side. Now if I need to come a little bit more this way, whoop, hold that on there. Right where you need it, Make sure it's level. Just add some tension. Don't put the coals to it just yet. All right, you want it to set up. You want to be in that 75, 85. If I go too soon, it's a fuzzy wet pole and it makes a mess. If I wait too long, it gets rigid and it shears off. So temperature is key. And then winter time, depending on where you live, you might be down here in Florida and you're good to go, but make sure you get some heat on that, right? Don't want it to cool down too fast. So same thing, I'm gonna come in and check it. Now, keep in mind, I put that bead around it. It's gonna be hotter than when I first put the glue on, correct? So I wanna come in, wherever I find 75, 85, it's golden. Now, keep in mind surface area. If I got a huge tab like I do now, 90, you're gonna be fine. It's when you get down into the smaller tabs, okay? Smaller the tab, you've gotta be in that 75, 85. You need everything that tab has to offer, so that's why that temp's so important. So if I go now, another thing too, these booties, okay? They're like rubber stops. I wanna put it towards the end, right? So if it lays down, it's not gonna hurt my panel. These are nice soft materials, rubber. Same thing, make a pull with the beam down. You necessarily don't wanna be up here, drive it. Be low, drive, come down, do your knockdown work up here, flip it up, do your knockdown work down here. Or come in with another tool, like a K-beam, and pull, all right? If you're not getting that satisfied pop, come in with a secondary tool to release some of that, okay? So we'll go ahead and go, just give it some tension. And look, I can put the coals in this and I can bend this beam, right? I mean, if you wanted to, you could do that. But honestly, and this wasn't too complex, right? If it was more sharp, some buckles, because your buckles is gonna determine the power you gotta use, right? You got the power, so if I can just keep going and going and going. Now keep in mind, when I'm doing that, something has to give somewhere. Being that it's lower to the panel, it's not gonna dive right off the bat. But if I keep sending it, trying to get that satisfied pop, I'm gonna create damage. That's just the reality of it. So typically what I would do, I would come back just a little bit. If that wasn't popping, glue a centipede, get a K-bar, and then just help it along because you're aiding that tension, right? That's all you're doing is you're aiding that factory tension back into the panel. You gotta think, when at the factory, in the foundry, it's stretched onto the shell and it's compressed. When you get that collision, it's reversed. So lateral tensions is putting that original stretch back into the panel. That's all you're doing. Yep, but it's super easy, fast setup.
That come with any tab or just
It comes with tabs. You're ready to go right out the gate. Yep. $8.99, 10% off for the show.
you get it today, definitely gonna be good.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Take care. You got it. Yeah, okay.